Peace, love, knowledge, and freedom, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Just Seen podcast. And today, as you've seen from the title, we're going to be talking about imagery, specifically the language of deities, right? Now, this episode, if you've heard imagination, this episode is going to kind of piggyback off of that. But you don't have to have heard that episode for this episode to make sense, because, you know, I give it how I give it. But that episode will kind of be compounded here to give you an understanding of what it is, right? But I wanted to talk about this episode because, again, season 12, we all in new shit. But this one I really want to talk about because I hear we're in a dark time right now. And I don't mean dark in a sense. Well, I mean dark, but I don't mean dark in a sense of be afraid. Be very, very afraid. Nah, I don't mean dark in that context. But I mean we're in a dark time and it's forcing everybody to quote unquote pray. And everybody I know, you know, I've grown up like this. I hear people say it social media wise everywhere. They say prayer works. And for some people, prayer works. For some people, prayer doesn't work. For some people, prayer works late. Some people, prayer works on time. And a lot of people don't understand why. And I ask, how does prayer work? It just does. You got to have faith. Prayer doesn't work with faith. Prayer doesn't work without, and even if they say faith without works is dead, but there's levels to how prayer works. But even deeper, I wanted to get to it because it's like, what language does a deity speak? Like we talk about prayer working. We talk about what you have to say to a deity, you know, and most prayers aren't really prayers. They're just motherfuckers begging for shit. Like people don't really understand what prayer is, which is what we're going to get into heavy today. But a lot of people don't really understand what prayer is, and they, you know, think it's just, you know, begging for shit. Because you're taught to beg when you pray. Like when you're first taught and you first learn how to pray, you're taught to beg, you know, or come in a very humble way, you know, humble. And I mean by the definition of humble as insignificant. You're taught to enter a space in a humble way, not be who you are. Most motherfuckers don't even pray as their authentic self. So one, your prayers ain't getting answered any motherfucking way. But when you look at how people pray, it's usually as a reaction to a problem. You know what I'm saying? They're not praying and being grateful for the good things in their life or whatever the case may be. They're praying so that they can acquire better things for getting out of fucked up situations or whatever the case may be. It's always something negative. And they wonder why they stay in those situations. It's almost like a one-to-one thing because they don't understand what prayer is. Because it's like, what language does a deity speak? Like, you really have to ask that question. What language does a deity speak? Because that is a quintessential piece of understanding how prayer really works. You know, deities don't speak English. They don't speak French. They don't speak Hebrew. They don't speak Aramaic. They don't speak Latin. They don't speak language at all. You feel me? And you know this to be true because if they did, children would come out defaulted already knowing how to talk. Yet children, before they learn how to talk and comprehend the world, before they learn how to speak, when they're walking and talking, they accomplish major things in their lives. Up until like those first two formative years, when children are learning how to sit up, learning how to crawl, learning how to walk, learning how to run, the basic fundamentals of, you know, human connection or whatever the case may be, before they actually learn how to talk and learn a language that binds them without them understanding the language, they're able to communicate with a deity directly. So you have to ask yourself, what language does a deity really speak? You feel them? You feel what I'm saying? Like, people don't really ask that question and they don't know. So they say, when I pray, if you pray in English, does your deity speak English? And I've heard it all. When I was young, I used to ask this question, what language does God speak? When I was in church, oh, God speaks all languages. Really? Are you sure? Yeah, God can understand all languages. Okay. Even when they say you speaking in tongues. When you speaking in tongues, people be like, that's my own universal language of God. All right. Well, what are you saying? I don't know. But God knows what I'm saying. How are you sending a message and you don't even know what the message is that you're sending? Because you're speaking in tongues. Like, what are you saying? You know? And they're like, nobody, you're not like speaking in tongues. That's your own universal language of God, blah, 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 and this, that, and the third. But it's like, even in the book, it says before anybody can speak in tongues, there needs to be a translator there. So when you understand from that context of the book, it says somebody has to translate somebody speaking in tongues, which means speaking in tongues was never some gibberish that was a universal connection. It is an individual language. So speaking in different tongues means speaking in a different language, because you have to understand the lingo, you have to understand the culture in which they meant, the words, and how all of these things go back. So when somebody's speaking in a different tongue, they're speaking in a different language, right? And it's not a universal language that's specific to that one person. But people make languages so their own individual cultures can have some form of solace and some form of communication. Now, I know, nigga, you said this episode is about imagery. Now I'm about to get into that before we go into the first commercial and shit. Feel me? Fuck with me. The reason why prayer is what it's supposed to be, and this is what they're not teaching you about prayer. Prayer is designed to create the words that formulate the images in your mind. Your deity does not speak or connect to the words that you speak. It connects to the images that are formed when you speak these words. So when you understand how the power of the life and death is in the tongue, when you understand how words truly work and words are used accordingly to connecting you to the source, connecting you to a deity, you have to understand that they're used to create your imagery. Now, if you do not know how to use these words correctly, you cannot create the correct images. This is one of the reasons why, as subtle as it is, when people are flowing, they say, "Do you see what I'm saying?" It's as simple as that. Because words have to be used in order to create the imagery in your head to make the communication work. If you cannot see the words being spoken to you in the way in which they're being spoken, your communication is off and you're not seeing the right thing. This is one of the reasons why a lot of people get angry in conversations and they start yelling and they get triggered easily and shit. A lot of times when you're talking to people, they can't see the image that you're saying. And then also too, what image they show in their mind based off of the image that you delivered within the message. And that's where a lot of disconnects come in, because people see what they're able to see based off of what you say. You feel what I'm saying? And I know, sounds a little woke, but by the end of this conversation, you'll see exactly what the fuck I'm talking about. But before we dive heavy into that, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Seen the Light. Be sure to check out my website at IamJustSeen.com to get all things that are just seen. To all those who tip, donate, and sponsor to the podcast, you are greatly appreciated. To all those who would like to tip, donate, and sponsor to the podcast, you can do so by clicking the link in the description of the podcast. Not the episode, but the podcast itself. And you know, the vibes, Cash App, and PayPal are just fine. Why do I feel like I'm always missing something with that now that I came back? I don't know. But either way, that's that for this and that's this for that. So we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to dive into prayer. No, I didn't say prayer. Imagery. When we come back, we're going to dive into imagery, the language of the deity. Not deities. When we come back, we're going to dive into prayer, language of deities. And don't forget to visit IamJustSeen.com. There, you can get all things Just Seen. You want to add the So For Real series to your library? Visit IamJustSeen.com. You want to learn how to master the markets for serious trading and investing? Visit IamJustSeen.com. You want to get your hands on some exclusive merch like tees, hoodies, coffee mugs, hats, bags? Visit IamJustSeen.com. Are you thinking about transitioning into the plant-based lifestyle? Visit IamJustSeen.com. You ever want to just chat with Seen about anything from simple advice to mentorship? Visit IamJustSeen.com. Anything and everything that is me, you can find at IamJustSeen.com. So take a quick peek into my world to see why being just seen is nothing less but always more. Because you never really know what you need until you see it, and you will never see it unless you visit IamJustSeen.com. All right. Welcome back. Ow. And without further ado, we're going to dive straight heavy into it. This episode just really came to me about 5 minutes ago before I started recording this, because it kind of segues and piggybacks off of the last couple of episodes that we've been talking about, but this kind of just flows into it. Because I was having a conversation with somebody, as I said, and they were like, your prayer works. And I'm like, I could see why you would believe that. And you believe that based off of everything that you've been programmed and conditioned to. But the reality is your reality doesn't necessarily show that prayer is working for you. You feel what I'm saying? And it's like, well, that's because, we can't move on our time. Like, there's so many buffers in place to justify why prayers aren't working, that people don't realize that they're not working because they don't know why they're supposed to work. You feel what I'm saying? So people say, well, it's not on your time, but God's time. And it's like, it's not on this time, but that. And it's like, there's so many layers to where it's like, okay, is my prayer really working? He may not come when you want him, but he's always on time. I'm going to show you how that actually works out to where it's always on time. But it all begins and ends with understanding prayer. First, in understanding that deities don't speak words. They don't speak words. They speak images, right? So we always talk about, especially when it comes to the conscious community and shit like that, when we talk about, words have power. And you ain't just got to be in conscious communities. Like, there's power, life, and death in tongue. Words have power. There's a whole bunch of idioms and cliches that tell you the power of words, but they don't tell you how this power works. You feel what I'm saying? And this is one of the layers and the things that I have, the problems that I have with religion, because it's like, it never teaches you the allegorical or the esoteric perspective of it. It teaches you the mythological perspective of it and makes you believe these things without giving you the skills and the resource to use them correctly. You feel what I'm saying? So while everybody is saying, you got to pray harder, you got to pray harder, you got to pray harder. When your prayers aren't, they say, my prayers aren't being answered right now. It's like, okay, well, pray harder. How much harder do you have to pray? Like, that's a legit question. I'm not trying to be funny or nothing, but how hard do you have to pray for it to work? And then now, because people don't understand the imagery, the connection that prayer has to imagery, they think that in order to pray, you have to have some kind of mediator. You have to have some kind of intercessor between you and the deity. Why? Why? When you learned how to walk as a baby, you didn't have no intermediary to teach you how to walk. When you learn how to talk as a baby, you didn't have an intermediary that gave you the spark to talk. Somehow, as we get older, we need a like, how do we need that? Right? So now you need somebody to teach you how to pray. You need somebody to teach you what to say to your deity, but nobody's paying attention to you giving this language so that your imagery can be controlled. When we look at the word religion comes from the Latin religare or religio, and it means to bind, right? I used to always wonder what are you binding to? You're binding to the language found within the religion, right? Now, if you go back to an episode I did on lexicons, right? Your lexicon is the world that is created by the words and the vocabulary that you use the most. You feel me? Your language develops your lexicon, right? You cannot think outside of your lexicon. I know, it's crazy. Like, the words that you use on a day-to-day basis develop your lexicon. Your lexicon develops your world. So now, when motherfuckers make jokes about, this person using big words, this person don't know how to do that, the more words that are found in the vocabulary of a person, the wider their lexicon is, which means the bigger their world is. You feel what I'm saying? Now, in addition to that, it's not just having the words, it's knowing what the words mean, their origins, their roots, and things of that nature, and knowing how these words are used and expressed fully within the self. You feel what I'm saying? When you look at certain fields, quote unquote, right? There's certain language and jargon that only people of that field know. The reason why is because when I'm communicating this to you, language is not about what you hear. It's about the images you can form when you hear something. You feel what I'm saying? It's about the images that you're able to form when you hear something. Somebody who has gone through nursing school or has gone through medical school or whatever the case may be, when they hear certain things, they've seen it. They've seen the imagery. You feel what I'm saying? And it allows it to sit within the head or within the mind. I ain't gonna say the head. One thing that I've learned, people ask me, how do you remember shit so well? I don't remember anything. But because my vocabulary is what it is, when people say certain things, I'm able to form an image instantly. And when I'm able to form that image, I'm able to internalize it a lot faster. So I don't have to memorize it. but I know what's being said. You feel what I'm saying? Some people focus on hearing words and being able to regurgitate words and still don't know what they mean. And if you don't know what the words mean, then you can't formulate the image that is to be seen by those words. You feel me? I always wonder why, if we look at our ancestral, roots and shit, whether it be from Kemet, whether it be from the Americas, whether it be whatever, we left quote unquote hieroglyphics is what they call them, but we left images. Why? Because because an image is worth 1,000 words, as they say, but one word can conjure 1,000 images. I'm gonna say that again. An image is worth 1,000 words, but one word can conjure 1,000 images. And this is where it starts to connect to prayers and deities, right? When you're praying, are you conjuring the words? Are you conjuring the images of the words that you see? Not many people are, because not many people know that that's what prayer really is. It's not prayer is not waiting till a disaster happens to come put your hand. Even when you look at how they taught you how to pray, you fall prostrate on your knees. You put your hands together like a beggar. The symbolism is always there. And this is a part of imagery. The very actions that you do physically, your body knows, okay, this is the space that we're in. There's always a direct connection. And if you're not in it, and if you don't perceive yourself to be in it, it is what it is. But there's a direct correlation between poverty and religious people and devout people. But when impoverished people beg a lot. Impoverished people beg a lot. And so too do religious people. Most prayers are in the position of a beggar. You're falling on your knees and you're putting your hands together. It sounds so beautiful when you actually say the word pray. But when you actually look at the imagery that is created when you are praying, why would you need to be in that position to ask a deity to help you? Really sit with that for a second. Why is that the physical position that you have to be in for a deity to assist you in life? You feel me? It just doesn't work. You get to a point where you are now begging to be helped. And you're begging from a reactionary perspective. Nothing is really proactive. It's all reactive for the most part. You know what I'm saying? But even still, we're going to keep it rocking. When we look at overall what imagery really is, when you actually start praying, people, they're not praying as their authentic selves. This is how imagery is easier to get tied into. Your authentic self sees exactly how your life is supposed to play out. Your authentic self, your true self, sees the images a little bit better. Now, your inauthentic self, when you're praying and you're not praying for your inauthentic self, that's how there's no images in your head when you're praying. Now, again, I'm not speaking on this from the speculative part of it. I'm speaking on it as a person who used to be tied to the religion. And when I was tied to religion, when I was praying, I would get into these prostrate positions as I was taught to do and, pray. But I will always come as the humble servant. I will always try to change my dialect, my tone. I would try to change into a softer voice, a more helpless, hopeless voice, and try to use I need your help, and this, that, and the third. I would come as a beggar. I was come as a beggar asking for something. And then right after I get out of that, I will go back and my authentic self would tap in for the other 6 days I'm not at church, or the other times that I'm praying and not actively, being myself. That's one of the hardest things ever. People are ashamed of who they really are. Imagine this. You're praying to a deity, but you're ashamed of who you really are based off of the deity that you connect to, which is why you pray the way that you pray. Now, what images are you going to hold when you go and speak to your deity? You're not going as your authentic self. That's why your imagination isn't working. Your imagination isn't working right. You know what I'm saying? Your mind should be full. With every word that you speak when you pray, your mind should have an image for the word that you're saying. Because that's what words are for. They're used to conjure images. However, when you now associate these words with a negative image of yourself, a negative image of your circumstance, what do you think is going to keep happening into your life? Because now, taking it back to the mind and the imagination, the mind, I'm going to tell you something very powerful about the mind. The mind doesn't know the word no. The mind doesn't know anything negative. So while we have to actively put the words to make something negative, the mind doesn't see it as do or don't. It just sees, this is what's in your mind. This is what I bring to reality. You ever wonder how when you tell a child don't do something, they do it anyway? Why? Because in my mind, I can't fathom not doing something. That's the first point that should be taught before you even teach somebody how to pray. The mind doesn't know how not to do something. Our physical body our physical essence has to be the determining factor that makes us will or makes us not do something, whatever. But the mind itself cannot perceive that things are impossible. The mind itself cannot perceive that things can't be done. The mind cannot perceive that things shouldn't, wouldn't, or couldn't be done. But if all you programmed your mind to do is go down, do a specific action or whatever the case may be, the mind's going to ensure that it happens. As the phrase goes, if you say you can't, you're right. If you say you can, you're right. Because the mind doesn't know what you cannot do or what you can do. It just knows what you put here and what you constantly think about. So here's what I mean by that. When you say that you can do something, just off of that, I'm going to use something simple. If you say, I can play basketball, what the mind visualizes is all things associated with any kind of entity, any kind of person, any kind of being that can play basketball. You see yourself doing crossovers, handles, all of these other things and shit like that. Yeah, your body will ultimately have to catch up to those things. You know, that's where the physical side comes in. But in the mind, when you say, I can do something, your mind literally formulates every possible way that it can be done. We don't pay heavy attention to that because a lot of us, you know, we may not play basketball, whatever the case may be, but when you think about all the things that you can do, your mind shows you the list of things that can be done. It gives you imagery, it gives you examples, it gives you any kind of thing that makes sure that it can be done for you to follow with that. Now, when you say, I can't do that, the mind doesn't just go blank. It now gives you all of the things that can't do that. Your imagery now shows you things of what can't be done. You feel what I'm saying? So when you're in a space and you're looking at, you know, I'm going to get into another part too with I can and I am as well. Those parts are good too. I'm going to show you something powerful with those. So when your mind is now saying, I want to be an entrepreneur. All right, let's start there. If you say, I want to be an entrepreneur, the desire doesn't connect. It doesn't link 100% because now there's a duality. What you want to do, you can do it and then you can't do it. This is why you really, really, really have to be mindful of the shit that you want to do in life, transitioning into what you can do and making sure you're not telling anybody who couldn't do it. Because when if somebody is telling you what you can't do based off what they couldn't do, they can't plant an image in your head of what you can do. You feel what I'm saying? I know. Here's what I mean by that. When you tell somebody, you know what, I want to be able to do this. And I'm going to show you when I learned this lesson. You tell somebody, hey, I want to do this. And they're like, why would you want to do that? They're going to, the moment you say that, their mind, and I know we're talking about prayer, but I'll show you the basic level just on the interactive level before you even get to deities. In their mind, when you tell them what they like, all they can do is conjure up the images in their head from their own experience with life based off of what you're saying. So when they give it back to you, they literally tell you only what they can see based off of what you're saying. I learned how to check this in people to keep myself from, doubting myself and giving up on certain things and knowing how I can go and talk to the right people about the right things. This is an episode I got on reassurance and advice. There's a difference. People without experience can't give you advice. They can only give you a reassurance, and that can either psych you out or push you forward. But advice tells you what you could do, what needs to be done. Reassurance tells you that, hey, yeah, you can do this, but advice tells you what needs to be done based off the experience. So one thing that I've learned to do to offset people's cynicism, their negativity and shit like that is when they ask me why did I want to do that, or why do I do that, I'm like, why not? I have to see. I've learned to program myself to say, I want to see why you're against what I'm talking about. It may be a valid reason. It may 100% be a valid reason why you think I shouldn't do it, but I have to make sure you're basing it off of me and not yourself. I have to make sure you're basing it off of me and not yourself. So when people ask me why I do something, or why would I want to do something, or why should I do something, I ask them, why not? Because now when I'm listening to it, you're not speaking on me. You're speaking on yourself in my position. A lot of times we get psyched out of shit because when we tell somebody something too early or prematurely or whatever the case may be, and they give it back to us, they're seeing it from their available imagery, from their imagination, not ours. They can't see our imagination. They don't have our head. They don't have our imagination. Half the time you're speaking to somebody about something that they have never experienced from your perspective. So the reason why it came to you as an idea, the reason why it came to you as a thought, and it never came to them, or when it came to them, they weren't able to do it, is because you're different people. Simple as that. So when it comes to those perspectives, when people ask me why I want to do something, why should I do something, I say, why not? If you can't answer me why not, I have no desire to answer you why, because you can't see it anyway. You feel what I'm saying? If in your why not, it relates to nothing that makes, if you're giving and you're responding and you answering why not, it has absolutely nothing to do. There's not even a small iota of connection to why I want to do it. I can't listen to you because you're not even considering my own perspective in this. You're considering everything based off of your perspective as if your perspective trumps mine when it's my idea. You feel what I'm saying? And again, I'm using this from the jump because I need it to be visible here. Because it's like, if this is how it plays out in real time, what do you think happens when you're communicating with your deity? Your deity doesn't speak language. Your deity doesn't speak language. Your deity speaks imagery and your ability to conjure an image and hold it in your head. This is why if you study and you read, it says meditate on the word day and night. Why do you meditate on the word? For one, what word are you meditating on? That's a whole conversation that we have another episode for. But when you're meditating on the word, what does that mean? That means I am now holding this word to create all of the images that are associated with this word. And this is powerful. This is powerful because now they're telling you, what word is this? What is the word? The bird, the bird's the bird. Ooh. Now let me stop. I gotta stay serious. But what is the word? They've convinced us that the word is the actual religious text, the religious book. That's not it. It's literally the word. Meditation is about the image. Meditation is about speaking or uttering the words that can give you the centering to focus on a specific image. Now, ultimately, images can turn to videos. Now, when people say, yeah, I was meditating and my mind just went all over the place, it went active, whatever the case may be, because you don't know how to control your mind. It's supposed to do that. Because now you've absorbed so many words, you've heard so many words that you never let these words be processed. All of these words have put imagery into your head. And this is one of the reasons why they gave the English language. This is one of the reasons why they gave the English language, because the English language is so manipulative and so tricky. One word can conjure 1,000 images. Seriously, literally. 2 words, and they make sure the spelling is different so the phonetics can be altered. I joke. I don't be joking, but I joke and I play a lot when I talk about there, and there. When I talk about how people don't know the difference between those. And it's like we laugh. And we, this person's, they slow. They don't know this, that, and the third. You're designed to be slow. That's why you're given the English language. It's to make sure you cannot conjure any images, which means you really and truly cannot connect to your deity. You think because you go to church on Sunday, you think because you you pray and ask for shit all the fucking time that you don't know. You can't speak to your deity. This is why you can't communicate with it correctly. And a lot of people want to admit that they're not communicating with it correctly. They always talk about, yeah, I talk to God. Well, what does he say back? Well, what does it say? It's a soft voice. It's those moments when I know that they don't know that they're not really connecting to their deity. They're just regurgitating what somebody has always told them is supposed to happen. They say, oh, it's a soft voice. It's my intuition. No, you're going to get an image. Deities speak in images. That's the only way that they can communicate with you, because now, you ever dreamed? You notice how when you in a dream and shit, you don't hear any words? But you know what's spoken in the dream. This is something that you really it's gonna really fuck you up when you sit with this. When you have dreams that are like very vivid, a lot of shit happened. You know that somebody said something. You know that words were said, you know that conversation, but if you actually sit and think about that dream, you didn't hear any words. You saw all imagery. You saw a whole action. It was like a silent film. But somehow you know what was said in those dreams, whether it be, oh, I read the person's lips or whatever the case may be. But no, somehow it feels like you heard everything too. Because that's how the inner eye works. Because it's not just the inner eye, it's the inner eyes, the inner ear, it's the inner all senses. You feel me? You got 5 of them. This is why you have the clairs, clairaudience, clairsentient, and things of that nature. But when a deity speaks to you, it speaks in imagery. It doesn't speak language. But we think it speaks language because that's how we've learned to think. So now, when you've been given this word, when you've been given your words and shit, people ask yo, what language do you think in? Bilingual people, you ask them what language do they think in? Some they're speaking one language, thinking one language, some thinking the other. But before you had a language, how did you think? This is one of the reasons why I say you always got to go back to who you were and look at your total life as a kid. There's literally a whole almost 2-year gap when you had no connection, no memory whatsoever. Psychology would teach you this. A child's memory banks don't develop until they're 2 years old. So even if a child can talk, even if a child can speak, they can't withhold memory. They can't hold images. You see what I'm saying? So even if they do have words and the words are spoken, there's nothing that the child can fully retain right now. So how does the child connect to source? It's already connected to source, and it's connected through imagery. It's connected through what is seen. The child doesn't have the buffer to manipulate what is seen by what is spoken. The English language is purposely designed this way for people to remain confused. So now, when people follow this English language and they don't speak the English language correctly, how are they actually connecting to their deity? If you don't even understand the basic words of your language and the basic communication of your language, how are you really in tune to say, you know what, I know what God is saying to me when God is speaking to me? You see what I'm saying? And then even deeper than that, the amount of words, and like I said, your lexicon literally tells you the limitation you have in being able to communicate with your deity. This is why poverty is what it is. All impoverished people have the same lexicon. They can't fathom anything. This is why when you look at, there's almost a direct correlation between poverty and righteousness and wealth and demonism, or whatever the case may be. You perceive, they give you the words to make you see the image of what they don't want you to have. So for example, what is one thing that a lot of people say, impoverished people say? They don't know that they're saying it because they want to be morally correct, because it's like the afterlife, I'll have my reward even if I'm being punished now. No, you won't. I'll talk about that later, but you won't. I'll say it now because I'm liable to forget about later. In the Bible, it says, that which you bind in on earth will be loosed in heaven. If you're in poverty on earth, you're going to be in poverty in heaven, because this is what you think you're supposed to have. You feel me? But one verse that really it always stuck out to me, and it was something that I had to break when I let it go, when I started to, get myself back mentally and spiritually to who I'm really supposed to be, was, what is it for a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? Right? Now, when you consider wealth, everything that, like, when black people acquire wealth, they say, yo, you had to have sold your soul. Now, don't get me wrong. Some of these motherfuckers is doing sinister shit. I'm not saying that they're not. You feel what I'm saying? But to tie wealth to negativity that way makes you not want to be wealthy. Makes you not even want to try, while still looking and wanting to have it. The desire to have it, to be free, to be these things, because now you feel when somebody acquires that wealth, they automatically are evil. They have done evil things to get it. There's no way, like, you hear it all the time on social media, you see it in real time, they'll say, there's no way that somebody could make $1 billion without doing something illegal or doing something sinister or doing something foul. Bill Gates is a billionaire because he supplies Microsoft Windows. He does fucked up shit. Don't get me wrong, the vaccines and all of that shit, he has done fucked up shit. But the point is, he provided a service that the world needs. Which, you know what I'm saying? Like, so it's like we get so heavily wrapped up into the ideology of that rich people are bad people. Not exactly. Not exactly. But the perception that rich people are bad people makes you not want to be rich if you, quote unquote, want to be a good person and get into your religion and get into the final space of your religion. It's crazy. So again, the words that are spoken don't fucking matter. It's the image that can come with the words that are spoken to you. So again, now we can get into the meat and potatoes of all of this. When you pray, your deity doesn't hear you. They see what you're saying, if you're saying anything. So now when you come to your deity and you pray and you say, hey, I want to be absolved of this. I want to be absolved of this. And it's something that I've heard. It was on, Bruce Almighty? When Morgan Freeman was playing God, he was like, he said, when we pray, does God give us what we ask for, or give us the opportunity to get what we ask for? You feel me? If you pray for happiness, you don't become happy. You get an opportunity to exhibit happiness. You know, if you pray for wealth, you don't get wealth. You get the opportunity to obtain wealth. You feel what I'm saying? But it's in your ability to create the image. Because now it's like, what do I need to do? The image is always there. But because we were always told, listen for the voice. Listen for the voice. We're looking for something to speak to us. We got the problem solved a long time ago. The problem was solved a long time ago. It literally came to us in an image, exactly what we needed to do, but a voice wasn't attached to it. So when that image comes to us, we think, oh, that's just me daydreaming. That's just me. No, that's source telling you this is what you need to do. But you're waiting on a voice because you were told to wait on a voice, because you're told that praying is speaking, which means you have to hear something back. Tying it back into what I was saying about how I always hear people say, yeah, it's a soft voice. God can't have no soft voice. He's God, bro. The voice should be thunderous. It should sound like it says it in the book. The voice is thunderous. It's powerful. How are you hearing a soft voice when it speaks to you? See where the contradiction comes in? See where the contradiction comes in? But even deeper than that, it connects to how imagery is heavily wound to spirituality. And imagination is heavily wound to spirituality. You feel what I'm saying? This is one of the reasons why when they introduced the concept of Jesus to black people, it was a white person. Even still, black people, you can argue all you want to, you still believe that Jesus is white. The sole fact that you have to turn them black to acknowledge it shows that shows that you still have that imagery programmed to see a white one. The imagery is already there. Now, if you read So Frail 2 or 3, well, from the So Frail series, I talk about how you have the conscious mind, subconscious mind, and unconscious mind. Imagery is stored in, once the imagery is stored in the unconscious mind, that's the shit that you start to enact. This is why you have that savior complex with white people. This is why, quote unquote, we look at white people can be very, very dark and do some sinister shit, but we will inherently see them as good people no matter what. You know why? Because we've already been programmed on the unconscious mind that Jesus is a white person. Even when you go back and you say, yeah, I have to paint him black. The moment you have to call him Black Jesus, You automatically know that there's a white one. You feel what I'm saying? If he was black, in your mind as a whole, you wouldn't just say black Jesus. You wouldn't have to say Jesus is black. You wouldn't, like, you would automatically know this image, but you have to you have to change this image within your head. And I'm using Jesus because that's one of the things that has the biggest bind on our people. Even deeper, the name Jesus being associated with a white dude, right? Tying it back, the name wasn't Jesus. Again, a word. But this name is now, once you hear this name, what image do you get? You get Caesar Borgia, but you don't know it's Caesar Borgia. You think it's Jesus. And then you have to take Caesar Borgia and make that black. And that ain't the motherfucker. You feel me? It is what it is, though. But it's tied to how the words now have to create imagery. This is what religion is about. And this is why there's 3 forms of the religion: mythology, ritual, and allegory. Because deities speak in images. All deities speak in images, whatever, no matter what you believe in. This is why I say a deity is why you always hear me say that a deity is the highest conceptualization of the mind. Because the image is the highest conceptualization of the mind. The very thing that you can see within your mind is how the image plays out. This is why you constantly ask, and you don't even know that you're asking on it. Do you see what I'm saying? When we look at children, parents used to be so disrespectful because parents don't know this. And it's like, it's not just parents. It's like, you're not taught to know this shit. Because if you're taught to know this shit, you don't need the shit that you're being taught about. You feel me? We'll say to a child, you'll tell a child to do something, they'll say, if you can huh, you can hear. The huh was a pause because I'm not picturing what you're saying. You started yelling, gave me a whole bunch of instructions. The yelling automatically shut me down. Now I'm in defense mode. I'm in fight or flight response because I'm alarmed. You feel me? So I can't digest. I'm not in rest or digest mode to process what you're saying. So I say, huh? So I can temporarily stop it. If you huh, you can hear. Okay, what did you say? So now I need that moment to be able to visualize the words that you're saying. You feel what I'm saying? This is one of the things that fucks us up as people, because we don't know that communication in the English language we don't know that language is supposed to be like this. So it doesn't matter how many words you have, how many images can you visualize from these words? You feel what I'm saying? How well can you visualize from these words? Now we tell a child, you're being bad. You're bad. You're bad. You're bad. You're bad. You're bad. When the child hears the word bad, they do not see BAD. They see all behavior from the imagery, from the TV shows that they watch, from everything that is being programmed to what is associated with bad. The bad guy. Let them watch Batman. When they see bad, what are they going to associate it with? The Joker, Mr. Freeze, Poison Ivy, Penguin. You feel me? When they're watching Superman, Kryptonite, Lex Luthor, when they're watching these cartoons and these shit that we just blindly put them on. And that's one of the saddest things about these tablets, the TVs, and all of these things, because this is imagery. They bypass giving us the words. They just give you straight imagery from the jump. You don't believe me? If you're a millennial, if you're in my age bracket, I put money on it. I put money on it. You will not drive behind a log truck. Why? Instantly you thought about Final Destination. Nothing that I said, I didn't have to give you any words. I didn't have to write nothing on paper. Instantly, the imagery is in your unconscious mind. You will not drive behind that. Why? It's safe. The logs, it's safe. The shit ain't gonna fall off. But the fact that it happened in a movie, your mind could not differentiate between what was good and what was actual real and actual fantasy. This is a movie. This is fantasy. This did not happen in real life. You feel me? It did not happen in real life, but your mind saw it. It saw real characters. It saw humans. It saw shit as if it was really in them. Like, all of that shit plays out when you're actually making a movie. It's designed like that for a reason. Because now I want your imagery to be controlled. You feel what I'm saying? They control the imagery for that reason. So if you don't have to have the words. Because now the imagery is what sticks. Now, when you tie words to the imagery, this is what happens. It now goes into your unconscious mind. This is why when people say shit like, I don't listen to the beat. I mean, I don't really listen to the lyrics. I just be hearing the beat. That's worse. Because now what you're doing is you're pre-programming your mind. You're pre-programming your mind to see things that you can't hear. If you're not listening to the lyrics as you say, your mind is still seeing things that you can't see. You feel me? This is the power of words. Because they're designed to generate imagery. And that imagery that you're designed to generate is what connects you to source. So the very shit you listen to and hear and allow yourself to be programmed to on a regular basis, these are the things that source allows into your life and says, hey, here's what you want. I used to tell women this all the time when I used to have my sessions with them, when they'd be like, why can't men just get it right? Why don't men, listen, why can't I just get it right? It's because, why do I keep running into fuck boys and shit? Because all you want is a fuck boy. That's all that stays on your mind. Like, what do you mean? That's all that stays on your mind. But it's because I don't want, you don't want, but your mind doesn't know what it wants or what it doesn't want. It knows what you put in it. So you can say all day long, this is what I don't want, while I'm thinking about it. You feel me? You're constantly considering, you're constantly thinking back to all of the bad things that have happened to you. Your mind doesn't know that you don't want bad things to happen to you. It just knows that you think about bad things a lot. So it's going to keep putting those bad things in your life. It's going to keep guiding you to those bad things because it's like, I don't know what you do or don't want. I just know that you're fueling this with an energy, and the energy that you're fueling with is tying to this image that you keep seeing on a regular basis. So I'm going to put it in your life. I'm going to make sure you gravitate towards it in your life. And this is one of the reasons why they say he may not come when you call him, but he's always on time. I know it seemed like I just switched, because it's like, it's not until it comes down to the wire when people actually get serious about something, and now their imagery, they no longer lead to pray, because now they're imagining, and their imagery is really tying into this. And now certain things shake, because now you're like, this is what I need visually. And then now all of a sudden it calibrates. It's not an accident. Deities don't speak words. They speak images. They don't speak words. They speak images. And I've learned, and it shouldn't be hard to comprehend when it's like, how do multiple people believe in the same deity and they speak different languages? There's no way that you can speak you go to a Roman Catholic church, you go to a Hispanic church, you go to a black church. They all supposedly talking to God, but they're speaking from a different language. So now that will give you the perception that, hey, God speaks images. God speaks images. Now it's on you to learn how prayer is supposed to conjure up the image that you're supposed to hold within your mind to make it real. You feel me? The moment in your mind you say, okay, I need this right here to happen, your mind can make that a reality, but it has to see the reality first. The only realities we see are the realities that we create for ourselves on TV. When you sit and you just streaming shit all day long, you're watching TV, you're watching the same shit all day long, that's what you see. This is why the news is so bad to people. The news reports the same shit every fucking day, but motherfuckers sit and watch the news all day long. Motherfuckers watch cartoons all day long. Like, whatever it is that you watch all day long, it's what consumes your mind. Those are the images that you have. You feel me? So your imagery now creates your reality, because it first develops your perception. This is how perspective works. And these are, even perception and perspective, both derived from vision in some way, shape, or form. But perception is how you visualize your imagery. Perspective is being able to see the imagery of other people. Like, that's a cool perspective. When you get emotional and you can't see somebody else's perspective, then you're stuck in perception. which means that your imagery is the only imagery that matters. So even when you get stuck in that perspective, if you can't see somebody else's perspective, how do you expect yourself to be able to connect to a deity to truly pray and receive a message from a deity? You can't see somebody else's perception. How can you see a deity's word? You can't see another human's perception, but you expect to see exactly what a deity is supposed to deliver to you. And this is one of the things that I always talk about too, where I say one of the reasons why I'm not scared to learn everything anymore, because I truly understand what a deity is now. As I said, I think it was episode 300 when I talk about when I got hit by a car and I actually went to the other side. I didn't have the imagination to stop me from seeing everything a deity was supposed to be. You feel what I'm saying? This is how I know that your imagination is what ties your spiritual component to your ultimate reality. You feel what I'm saying? You're going to see what your imagination is programmed for. But tying it in, this is why I learned so much. People be thinking that I'm not trying to upstage nobody. I'm not trying to one up nobody. I don't give a fuck about nobody's, feeling inferior. Nah, I want to be able to hear source whenever it speaks. The more that I learn, the more images that I can receive from source. You feel what I'm saying? The more images that I can receive from source, like it can come in any message and I can always know, okay, you're speaking to me now. Now you're speaking to me, but you don't say words because it's in images. So now when I'm out and my eyes are actually open, I'm not in meditative state. I'm just out and about. When certain things cross my path, like when I see numerology, when I see numbers, when I see certain aspects of the stars, it's like, oh, I get you. I get you. This is what you were meaning. When birds come, like the other day, I was chilling. One of my spirit animals is the woodpecker, depending on where I'm at. And, but I've learned that you can get messages from anything, right? So it's like I'm chilling and usually when woodpeckers knock, it's what it does. But this particular woodpecker wasn't knocking on wood, it was knocking on metal. And like I kept hearing it, and I had my headphones on too. So I'm listening to the music, but I'm hearing that above the music. Nothing else, but I'm hearing that above the music. I'm like, what the fuck is that? It caught my attention. The sound is designed to catch your attention to see what you're supposed to see. So when I went and I checked it out and I seen the woodpecker, I was like, oh, okay. And then I sat with it. What is the thing about a woodpecker? Woodpeckers are focused on one thing. Woodpeckers have a specific focus, and they not drill, but they knock on a specific thing. So a woodpecker can ultimately connect to opportunities knocking or being diligent and consistent within a specific thing. So now you have to go back and ask, what position am I in right now? Am I in a position where I need an opportunity, or am I in a position where I need to be consistent? You feel what I'm saying? But it comes from having that understanding of what the woodpecker represents symbolically. And then now when you understand that, now that imagery is there. So now when the deity needs to speak, it gives you the image. Okay, what image do you need to see? The image of yourself being prepared for an opportunity, or do you need to see the image of yourself being consistent? You see me? See what I'm saying? Then it comes to you. So when we're actually talking to a deity, it's like, I need to sit and be able to generate the image correctly, because that's how it's going to speak to you. The image visibly that you can see out in the world. You feel me? A lot of people be like, oh, I saw 444. I saw 12. And I ask them, what does it mean? I don't know. Well, you ain't see shit. You saw numbers. But until you have the actual meaning and the definition and the true understanding of what these numbers represent, the imagery is always going to escape you. Do you feel what I'm saying? For you to know what something means, you have to be able to see it in your mind. All you keep hearing is get into the markets. But do you trade or do you invest? Should you do stocks, forex, crypto, or NFTs? My personal answer is not a single one if you don't know how to read a chart. Without knowing how to read a chart, you end up giving all your money to those who do. Do you know what a candle is? Do you know the pocket of activity? Do you know the difference between market direction and market control? If you answer no at least once, you might want to learn how to read a chart first. Learning how to read a chart will let you know if you should trade or invest, and if you should do stocks, forex, crypto, and or NFTs. It will also let you know if this is even for you or not.
So visit IamJustSeen.com to learn how to recharge with my Master in the Market course, ebooks, and webinars today. The world is changing. The question is, will you adapt with it?
So again, it goes back into, I don't care what it is, I'm going to learn it. Whether some people think it's evil, some people think it's good, whatever it is, I don't have that fear of good and evil. I don't have that fear of any, like, I learn whatever I want to learn, because now it opens me up to always be able to be communicated to from source. Now, I don't recommend that to everybody. And the reason why I don't recommend that to everybody is because some people go into with their imagination already tied to anything that's not this is evil. So your mind is going to make those things evil. Because now when you have the imagery of that thing, it's always going to be that undertone created by you that this is evil, and it's going to make it an evil thing for you. I don't make this stuff up. I just watch it. I just watch it play out. I go through everything in life objectively. Everything that I see in life is 100% objective for me now, because I understand, oh, there's something bigger. Source ain't good or evil. But now when you perceive that everything about source is good, you can't attribute the bad shit to source, which means that you cannot get the full dynamic of what it is that you're supposed to be getting. You feel what I'm saying? But again, as long as we come to a space where we feel like, you know what, I gotta believe this. And in believing, what is the number one thing about believing? What they say, seeing is believing, not reading, not dancing, not seeing is believing. Why? Why is seeing believing? Now, when we go into the So Frail series, when I talk about the 4 levels of the mind, belief, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, seeing is believing. If you cannot hold the imagery, you cannot believe in it. And if you cannot hold the imagery to believe in it, then there's no way that you can know it. And if you can't know it, then you can't experience it. And if you can't experience it, then you can't understand it. But it starts with what? Being able to see it. See it where? They want you to believe that it's just your regular 2 eyes that you see it with. You have to be able to see it in your mind in order for it to be real. In order to believe that that it can happen. Motherfuckers can see some shit in real life and say, I can't believe that. The motherfuckers can believe in some shit they'll never see. And they have never seen. That's one of the biggest pieces that kind of makes religion what it is. The fact that I make you see what you can't see and tell you that you're seeing it. It's fucked up. It's very fucked up. But it's like, I make you see what you know you can't see, and I tell you that you see it. And you believe that you see it. So much so that you'll fight yourself. You'll fight yourself to say that you've seen it when you didn't. And then you'll go around other people who claim that they've seen it too. And now your belief is, okay, if this person's seen it, then I know that. No, you didn't see it. You believe it. And somebody made you believe in something that they never let you see. Here's what I mean by that. People fear hell. They believe that hell is a real place. They believe that when you go to hell, you're going to burn in fire. People are going to be screaming. They laid it out in the book, allegedly what hell is supposed to be. But one of the things that's not in the book that has been tied to hell is fire. Because they base it off the fact that he said in the Bible, the second coming or whatever the case may be, it's not going to be water, it's going to be fire. It's not going to be flood like it was with Noah, but it's going to be fire. So now, when people say hell, you're going to burn in hell, it's going to be eternal fire and everything like that, it could only apply to a physical vessel. We know these are just supposedly meat suits, right? We say it all the time. This is going to, the shell is going to fall off and we're just going to be our soul. How can our souls burn through physical fire? You believe some shit that you've never seen. But they made you see it they made you believe it as if you've seen it. Ask that. Listen to how the average religious person talks about any supernatural experience, especially when it comes to hell, especially when they gotten so used to speaking from a fantasy perspective as if it really happened. They've never seen it. This is how COVID was so easy to be manipulated and work with people. They told y'all to trust science that had never been done. There was nothing to see in order to believe, but you believed what you couldn't see. And now all of the truth is coming out. People that are dying, there's people with that are actually, it's coming out, oh, you died from the shot, but it said you can't sue, it's not covered in your health insurance because this was an experiment. They're literally telling people in their insurance policies that the COVID vaccine was an experiment. There's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing you can do about that. You feel what I'm saying? And if you got jabbed, I try to tell y'all, you was getting experimented on. They suppressed my page. They muted me. They did not let me talk about shit, bro. They watched me for a long time for this shit. But whoever it was supposed to get to, it got to. Whoever it wasn't, hey, it was what it was. I can't knock how y'all got to get down. But the point of the matter is, it ties back into his imagination, because what happened was, what did they do? Every day on the news, what did you see? This is going to be bad. This is going to be bad. This is going to be bad. Your mind now perceives what bad is based off of this. I be talking to people and they be like, yo, how don't you get sick during the seasons? Because I don't watch the news. I don't watch nothing that's going to tell me I'm supposed to get sick. That's how powerful the mind is. And that's how I know how powerful the mind is. When you sit and you constantly watch, okay, this season is going to happen. It's supposed to be this. Your mind already weakens the moment you say, yep, I'm going to get sick. I'm going to get sick. Now we're going into another part with the I am. I am. I make sure that when we understand the word, the human being, that's what I am is. I'm still sticking to the deity and everything like that, but this is how deities lock in and actually make our lives what they were, by simply uttering the words I am and everything that follows. I is the human, am is the being. And everything that follows the am is how the human being now has to maneuver. So when we're creating the image and likeness of the deity, it's the I am that I am. It even says that that's what the name is. I am that I am. So when you utter the words I am, everything that follows that, it now starts the imagery for who you really are. It doesn't matter how much lingo you use, how much slang you use, how twisted, manipulated you get the language is. When you utter anything around the parameters of I am, this is what you will be. Now, when you hear even the secondary and the passive part to I am is you are. The moment somebody says you are, yep, I am. You right. You right. Be careful with what you utter, because now your mind is saying, this person said this, you agreed, my nigga. So now when I start to put this imagery in my head and I start to create this imagery about you, you can't get mad when your reality changes. You are. This is one of the reasons why, this is why I gave up religion personally. Because everything about religion says what you should do. It's about going out and converting people. It's about going out and telling people what they shouldn't do. It's, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's about judgment while telling you don't be a judger. But that shit's weird. You'll go out, look at the 10 Commandments. It says, thou shalt not. Understand the language. Thou means you. Right? When I started studying Kemet, when I started studying African spirituality, when I started studying the real tenets of our past cultures that we used to follow before we got indoctrinated into this shit, it was always I have not done this. I have not done this. It was the accountability. That's the first mark of the shit. So when you constantly hear something that's telling you what you shouldn't be doing, you now have to go out and tell other motherfuckers what they should be doing. This is why everybody be like, whatever deity told me to tell you this. No, it didn't. No, it didn't. That deity ain't say none of that shit. Well, what did it sound like? You got an image. It was an image that, you know, it was just a feeling, something came to me and I just like, yo, I gotta, what did the elders say? Grandma, she had a dream about a fish. She had a dream about a motherfucking fish and she knew what? Somebody was pregnant. She wasn't told that somebody was pregnant. She didn't get the actual words, this person is pregnant. She said, I had a dream about a fish. There was an imagery that was communicated to me to see, and I knew to break this down image-wise to the right words, because a picture is worth 1,000 words, to what words this image now represents. And it came back down to somebody pregnant. I don't know how. Being dreaming about a fish makes a motherfucker pregnant. I don't know how that shit works, but damn it, it works somehow. You feel me? That's cultural. That's cultural. Somehow a fish. Well, I kind of understand because fish, water, and shit like that. The womb. There's something. A fish could represent a baby in the womb. I guess I don't know. And birth, and being that Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac, and Aries starts the first complete cycle. I don't know. Water somehow. I don't fucking know. Don't get me to lying child. That's what I always say. Don't get me to lying child. But nah, that imagery is how the deity communicates. Somebody was pregnant. You feel what I'm saying? There's lots of imagery that we get on a regular basis. But again, if you don't have the vocabulary and the words to articulate the image, it ain't gonna come out. You feel me? Now, when we look at oracles, we look at prophets, you know, a prophet is just a male oracle, or oracle is a female prophet. You see what I'm saying? It's not like mystical shit. But the thing about it is, in order to truly be called a prophet, in order to truly be called an oracle, you have to have a extensive vocabulary. For one, you have to have a very extensive vocabulary. You have to be able to articulate. You have to have a heavy, in-depth understanding of history and information as a whole. Because when the message comes in, you have to be able to give it. You have to be able to fully complete the message and get it to the masses as the masses are supposed to get it, or just to whoever's supposed to be listening to it. You feel me? I was talking to somebody a couple of days ago, and we were talking about how the stock market is about to crash or something. It was something about the stock market crashing, and no. She was like, "Do you think crypto is going to take over and we're just going to be under one universal currency?" I said, nah, they're not going to do that, and they're not going to leave it under one universal currency, because then you can't trade it. Like, the money that the world is making and moving is because you have different currencies. If they put everything under one currency, then the wealth movements, the illusion in the wealth movements, it will stop, because you can't trade the same thing for the same thing. Nobody wants it. Now, she was like, no matter how many times you tell me that, I can't wrap my head around it. And I was like, that's because you're not in the game. We have different imaginations when it comes to this shit. You feel what I'm saying? But like, she was a nurse. So I told her, I said, imagine if I tell you this person is dehydrated and need an IV of electrolytes. Instantly, you've seen what I'm saying because you're a nurse. You see what I'm saying because you have the experience to see what I'm saying. The imagery is there for you to see what I'm saying. I have the imagery to see what I'm saying about the markets. So like, when I be telling people shit and they be like, nah, that's delusional, this, that, and the third. No. You just can't see it. Your vision doesn't allow you to see it. So you can't believe what I'm saying, let alone understand it. You see what I'm saying? Belief, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. But you're seeing is believing. You have to be able to see it in your mind. In order to see it, you have to have a connection to the language that's being spoken in order to actually create the image to believe it in the first place. You see what I'm saying? Which allows you to go into the next phases. So it's like, when I see people say, you got to know the word, they reading the Bible and shit like that, you don't even understand it. There's things that I pointed out to people that have said that, I know the word, and there's things that I pointed out that they said I've never seen before. Do you really know it? Nah, you're just good at quoting it. You memorize the shit. But in quoting it, can you truly create the image necessary? Because there's a lot of pieces that got to go into it. One of my favorite verses was, no weapon forged against me shall prosper. I used to believe that wholeheartedly. Even when weapons was prospering, they was prospering like a motherfucker, I would still have that hope. No weapon forged against me shall prosper. That's Isaiah 54:17. Go up one verse. Isaiah 54:16. It says, for I create the destroyer. This is God talking to you. For I create the destroyer to work havoc in your life, but it can only do what I allow. Therefore, no weapon forged against you shall prosper. Whoa. So you forged the weapon that doesn't prosper against me. Yeah, nigga, that's why it don't prosper, because I made sure it wouldn't prosper. It's going to bust your ass though, but it wouldn't prosper. So now, when you are not seeing the full totality of the verse, your imagery is limited to what that verse really means. So now you're wondering, why do I keep going through this shit? But, trouble don't last always, and this, that, and the third. It's like, because you don't understand the full verse. Even if you've read it. If you've read it, your mind has seen it. Right? It's seen the words, but did it create the image? I was just watching the social media thing. This dude was talking about the movie Soul Food. He was like, yeah, I was up for the role on Soul Food, but I lost it to the actual boy that played the kid in Soul Food. He said, because I couldn't read. He said, I was able to identify every single one of the words, but I didn't know what it meant. He couldn't see the image. That's what reading comprehension is. When I read these words, can I get the image that this was meaning to portray? I know I'm not milking it. I'm not going to try to milk it. But this is the thing with Drake and Kendrick Lamar. Drake fans and everybody that was mad at the Super Bowl performance and shit like that, it was like, I don't want to think. You can't see. It's not that you don't want to think, nigga, you can't see. Kendrick speaks in a way that makes you stop to see, and you can't see what he's saying. Anybody can see what Drake is saying. It's not hard. He doesn't, it's like, yeah, I want to get the party lit. I want to be in the party. Nigga, we going to the party, nigga. Let's go to the party. But nobody wants to think, because thinking is actually being able to conjure images. And I'm using conjure specifically because I know people associate conjure with magic and they make it seem like it's such a negative. No, you conjure these images up. But this is why they want people to focus on the past and not the future, because when you're actually able to think correctly and you're able to use words and create the imagery, you can now create your reality through the conjuring of images, but you have to have words to do so. Something that people used to always tell me, and they still tell me this to this day, yo, I like how you can articulate anything, because I need you to see what I'm saying. I'm not just giving you these words so you can read them. I have to make sure you see them too. It has to be seen in order for you to even understand. It has to be seen in order for you to even begin to understand what I'm saying, because I got to get you to believe it first. Now, this is not say I try to convince people shit. No. I make you see it. You're going to believe it. Now it's going to fuck with you, because now you have to go, now you're automatically going to go into the knowledge phase and say, I got to refute this nigga because I don't like what he's talking about, which is going to lead you to your own experience with it, which is going to lead you to understanding. I know what I'm doing. Do you know what I'm doing? Chances are you don't, because not only funny shit, but you're not taught to image, you're not taught what imagination is, for one. Therefore, you're not taught how to use your imagery. Therefore, when you see certain words, like, I don't use big words for a reason. Like, I don't use big words for no reason. I use the right word because this is the word that actually sits with what imagery I need. You feel me? So now when people say, the Bible say meditate on the word day and night, what word are you supposed to meditate on? You feel me? This is why don't nobody know that. This is why most motherfuckers don't know that the religious texts are about stars, the sun and the moon. Like, it's weird. Because the words, they don't know the words. They know the words enough to actually go tell a motherfucker and brag about it and say, yeah, I know this scripture. What does it mean though? What do you see when you see that word? For example, when I tell people about Genesis 1:26, Genesis, nigga, 1:26, let the fruit be thy meat. Oh, we supposed to be plant-based? Yep. Why have you never seen that? But yet, you know that you're supposed to eat animals that have a split hoof and chew the cud. And what animals do you see to visualize that? Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, when you're telling these stories, you have to be able to see them. That's what makes it what it is. You have to be able to see it in your mind's eye. In order to see it, you have to understand the language, but they don't teach you to understand the language. Therefore, you can never see. So when they say seeing is believing, it's like, yo, this is why you believe it, because somebody can tell you a story that seems real. But then when you actually get the knowledge behind it, you know that it doesn't make sense, and it's not. For example, the story of Jonah and the whale. Again, this is mythology. It's not real, but it's mythology. Image-wise, you picture, yo, motherfucker got swallowed by a whale and lived in there for 3 days or whatever. Now, when you understand that a whale's stomach is only the size of a grapefruit, that's crazy. And you can go look this up. But why don't we go further with that? When we get something that says a little bit of information, it's like, okay, this is what it is. Belief, knowledge, wisdom, understanding. They teach you to stop at belief. The moment you see it in your mind's eye, don't go validate it. Just believe, yeah, he got swallowed by a whale. But then, what's the size of a whale's stomach? Just go look that up. Just go look up the size of a whale's stomach. You'll see that no fully grown man could have been in a whale's stomach, especially not for 3 days. Because his stomach acid juices would have killed him anyway. But you feel what I'm saying? This is the belief side of it. They make you believe in the mythology without teaching you how to know what the mythology is. You feel me? So now, with that being said, what happens when you pray? I know it seems like you never talked about prayer because I had to set the tone. It's all been about words and what the words are spoken. That's what prayer is. The words that you speak in order to send to your mind to conjure the necessary images to create your life. That's why, I don't know if you've heard me say it, but prayer sends the message up. Meditation sends the message down. Because it allows you to see the image and hold the image within your mind. They call it sacred geometry. They call it whatever they want to, but being able to hold an image in your mind is how you manifest your reality. You see what I'm saying? They be like, yo, think positive thoughts. Have more optimism with it. You can't. You can't have more optimism until you understand how to use optimistic words in order to create positive imagery. So now when you speak to your deity or whatever the case may be, one, your deity's only going to listen when you're authentically yourself. They don't listen to the performing prayer. I ain't trying to be funny, but they don't listen to the performing prayer. Y'all know who I'm talking about. The motherfucker that's coming to you and it's like, oh, I'm your humble servant. Please, I just like life. No, that's not who they pay attention to. They pay attention to that motherfucker that cussed out the homeless person. They pay attention to the motherfucker that on a regular basis says motherfucker. Like, one thing that I learned to do, and a lot of people say, you can't do this. That's wrong. You going, call it what it is. How I'm talking on this podcast is how I talk to source. Why lie? Not voila, but why lie? Like, outside of my meditation, outside of all of this, outside of when I'm being performative, you see me, motherfucker. You know I'm gonna call a motherfucker at least 3 times in a day. You know that I'm going to, you know what I'm gonna do. And this is what I'm be telling people. They be like, yo, he knows my heart. He knows my heart. Do we? Do we? Because that's what he's responding to in your life. Your heart. Because that's who you really are, your authenticity. You can act like you're a good motherfucking person, but but how are you naturally when you're not performing? Because that's the impetus that allows the necessary images to form within your mind. Your authentic self. That's who holds the images the most. If you're depressed, you're going to hold depressive images. If you're excited, you're going to hold those kind of images. If you constantly getting talked out of shit, you're going to hold those kind of images. And the deity says, oh, this is what you want. This is what I feel. I get it. All day long, you can say, I want to be successful. I want to be this. I want to do this. I want to do this. Okay. What's in your mind right now? Opposite of what you want. And you wonder why the shit don't happen. The fuck? You don't know how to pray. You don't know how to pray. So when you're supposedly praying, when you're supposed to be praying, what you're supposed to be doing is, one, be your authentic self. Talk how you talk on a regular basis. You feel me? When you by yourself and you say shit like, man, my dumb ass did this, then a third, you dumb. Your mind now creates the imagination of a dumb motherfucker. This is what I was talking about with I am. Anything that you say after I am, you mean. Your body, your essence will create that reality for you. I am this. When the shit that you own in your life, this is why the language is so important to know and master. Because when you take ownership over some shit, like my this, my that, my this, my that, I am. Those are very powerful because your body is now your imagination. I didn't even say your body. Your imagination and your mind is now holding these things. Now, when your soul kicks in and wills these things into reality, your body's going to act. I'm not good at math. You won't be good at math. And so much so that when you say I'm not good at math, your body, your mental space will create the imagery and imagination for you to perceive what it's like to not be good at math. You can literally change it by saying I am this, and now your mind will start to see this. Now, once you start to say I am, you now have to gravitate towards the things to make you that. The imagery, seeing is believing, is designed to get you there, to take you to the knowledge. You're going to be navigated to that. You feel me? I said it in the jam session. I speak as if it was to guarantee that it's so. The reason why I do that, it wasn't just like some witty words and shit. I speak as if it was to guarantee that it's so, because the more I speak that it already happened, it now programs a better image in my head. So now, as this image is in my head, I go forth and I find the information or find the necessary things to lead me into understanding this. You feel me? When I became an entrepreneur and shit, it wasn't about, there was things that I had to learn that I said, I know I'm going to have to learn. So I had to keep saying, I am an entrepreneur. I am an entrepreneur. And then I had to start infusing certain words. I'm a successful entrepreneur. I'm a profitable entrepreneur. I'm this. Like, there's things that I had to add to it. So now my imagination says, this is what this is supposed to look like. Now let me go. Now, when I now need to go find these necessary things to improve myself, I know what to look for. Because all it is a reflection of myself. Now, when I'm praying and I'm conjuring up to the deity and I'm saying, hey, source, I got to do this. Like, I don't sit there and beg and pray and shit. I just come to the conversation. This is one of the reasons why they don't want you to talk to yourself. They call you crazy if you're talking to yourself, but you're really talking to source, because what you're doing is, in talking to yourself, you're being your true authentic self. And not only are you being your true authentic self, you're actually setting up the necessary imagery to connect with the source correctly. You're not crazy. You're not crazy at all for talking to yourself. Now, if you're talking to yourself about crazy shit, if you're talking to yourself and you say, you know what, I think I'm losing my mind, you'll start losing your mind. Because now the mind is so fucking powerful. Your mind will start to create the imagery within you of what you would perceive yourself to be if you were losing your mind. And guess what happens? You reenact that reality. Your soul wills that reality, that imagery into existence because you see it. When I do my sessions with people who are, truly trying to say, yo, I want to come into spirituality, I want to understand this, I'm like, yo, I need you to understand that if you feel like you're crazy, accept it. If you feel like you're not crazy, accept it. But don't try to fight it. Because you can't fight. You can't fight your mind. Whatever you plant within your mind, that's the reality that's going to happen, and you can't fight it. Your mind always wins. Your mind is always going to win. People say it's mind over matter, and that is the truth, because whatever imagery, whatever system that your mind has, your deity source is going to fuel it. It's going to fuel it. So while you thinking, I'm going crazy, you're right. Don't try to maintain sanity then. Accept it, because you've already uttered that you're going crazy. So like I was saying, when people have sessions with me, they be like, you think I'm going crazy? No, I don't. But do you? Because if you think you're going crazy, we need to stop now, because I'm not gonna, because you're gonna go crazy. When the conscious community when people was coming out of Christianity and whatever, going into tarot or whatever the case may be, talking about, I started seeing dark forces, because you already had that feeling that was going to happen when you went into it. You left your religion out of rebellion, out of anger, because you went to you switched extremes. You didn't have understanding. You switched extremes. Therefore, that's what you were going to see was darkness and demons and all of that shit, because you had an anticipation that anything that's not within that already, it was already programmed within you. Anything that's not in that is automatically demonic. That's it. But you didn't understand that the word demon and demonic comes from the Greek, which means genius. So demonic shit is just a negative expression of your genius. Therefore, angelic shit is just a positive expression of your genius. You feel me? But when you automatically walk into a situation, you automatically walk into a world where you've already been programmed. The imagery is already there for what you're going to see. Now, when fear starts to kick in, you're going to see what you didn't want to see. I saw so many motherfucking tarot readers talking about, yo, I went crazy. Yeah, you went crazy because you was already crazy, my nigga. And I don't mean that in a fucked up way, but your mind had already perceived that when you go into this space, these types of people are crazy. Therefore, now that I'm going into that space, I have to be crazy to fit here. Because now the imagery has already been programmed. Imagery has already been set because deities don't speak language. They speak images. Therefore, the mind is only as powerful as the images that it can hold. And when the mind holds a specific image, those images are what the reality is now created into be, was created to be. It's not an accident, my nigga. It's not an accident at all. They made this the reality. They made this what it is. So now I'm going to give you the language I want you to have. Therefore, I can control the images you're able to see. Not just the images I want you to see, but the images that you're capable of seeing. The average adult in America reads at a 6th grade level. 6th graders are between 11 and 12 years old. The average adult reads and comprehends at a 6th grade level, my nigga. That means if you only can comprehend at a 6th grade level, the amount of images, the imagery that you have, that you're able to hold within your mind is that of a 12-year-old. That of a 12-year-old. And you wonder why motherfuckers is on social media arguing, looking stupid. You wonder why when motherfuckers, you post something and you be like, that's not even, they responded to what they could see. And they couldn't see much. Niggas is 30 and 40-year-old 12-year-olds. Because they can't comprehend. And if they can't comprehend, that means they cannot visualize what is being said. And they cannot visualize what is being said the way in which you are saying it. That changed, I promise you, that changed my whole perspective when I started to look at that. It's like, I go back and forth with trolls because I know I'm arguing with a kid. I'm not trying to be funny or no shit like that, but I actually read on an esoteric level. When you understand the levels of reading and comprehension, you got K through 12, of course. Then you have college. You feel me? Freshman. But I'll just leave that as undergrad, right? Then you have master's level. Then you have PhD level. After the PhD level of reading comprehension, that's when you go into the exoteric and the esoteric. Esoteric is the highest level of comprehension, of reading comprehension. You feel me? If a motherfucker can't read on a 6th grade level, you can't expect me to understand that you understand the Bible, bro. But now when I'm watching how people when people are at different reading levels and they're understanding the same thing, something's wrong. You're understanding something the same way. Something is horribly wrong, bro. But we don't look at it from that perspective because we don't know to look at it from that perspective because we don't know that all of this is about maintaining the control of our imagery. Because if I can control the highest conceptualization of your mind, which is your deity, now I can control how you're going to think. You can't outthink me. You can't outthink me if you can't outthink the deity that I gave you. So now, motherfuckers is asking, is Jesus black? Is Jesus white? Or whatever the case may be. Like, who the fuck cares, nigga? The sole fact that you can change his skin tone without asking, is the motherfucker real? You feel me? It hits different. It hits different. So now when you start to look at the imagery of all of the shit that is tied to your deity, tied to your religion, it's like, you feel me? If I can make you see it, I can make you believe it. Like motherfuckers, they'll tell you the story. Yeah, they'll tell it like they were actually there. Ask a motherfucker about the story of Jesus turning water to wine. Ask some motherfuckers a story about Jesus multiplying the fish and the bread to feed 5,000. Ask a story about all of the stories. Ask anybody about all of the stories about Jesus. Watch how they tell you the stories as if they were there, knowing damn well they won't. But they'll tell it as if they were. How? Because the words in which it was given to you, the manner in which it was given to you was to get you to see it in your mind's eye. Because in your mind's eye, the mind can't determine whether it really saw it or not. This is why movies are so important. This is why movies are so impactful. Your mind just sees the shit. Once you can actually show it to somebody in their mind and they can see it, it becomes real. Whether it's real or not. This is why I always say people have difficulty separating fantasy from reality because we're given fantasy as if it's reality. And because fantasy is given in a realistic way in which our mind can now perceive it, we think it's real. Y'all remember when they hated Tariq in Power? Like, motherfuckers really hated Tariq in Power. So much so that when they saw Michael Rainey Jr., they hated Michael Rainey Jr. Like, you need your ass beat. Nigga, that's Tariq. That's a fictional character that doesn't exist. The mind doesn't know that this character doesn't exist. Because you're seeing it on a TV screen, right? You're visibly seeing this being. These are real people. The communication is there, and you're developing a feeling behind this imagery, and it's now storing in your mind. You think that's a real person, and it ain't. And it ain't. This is why social media was so easy to usher in. It's deeper than escapism. It's social media can create an image that holds in a motherfucker's head. It's one of the reasons why I like posting words. I know a lot of y'all don't get half of the shit I be talking about. And it's not that you're stupid. It's not that you can't. You just don't have the... You have to be around me enough to start to see the images the way that I see them from the words that I speak. If you can't, you won't. And it's nothing against you. No shot towards you. It's just the way the reality plays out. It's what it is. You see what I'm saying? How often do we get caught up in that? Thinking that somebody saying the same thing as that so we can comprehend what somebody is saying. You feel me? That's why I love the way that I do my jam sessions. You literally have to be a podcast listener to understand my jam sessions. You have to be a podcast listener to understand the Paula Cafe flows. You're not going to get it. Because you would have to have heard me talk about this information at some point and broke it down to where it gave you the imagination to when you actually heard it with me making it a lyric, it makes sense. You feel what I'm saying? But that's the power of the imagery, because that's what deities speak. That's why a deity is the highest conceptualization of the mind. That's how you connect to source. This is why vocabulary is important. This is why it's not even just vocabulary, it's language. This is why I'm always talking about you need to have etymology. You need to have a vocabulary. You need to have the definitions. You need to have these things. This is why I say that, because when these words are spoken and you hear them, you have to be able to create the image and the context in which this shit is being spoken. I made a post about the alphabet people. Motherfucker got offended by that. Fuck everything else that I said. Only thing that caught their mind was the alphabet people. And it was like, yeah, straight black men are the reason why the community is fucked up and this, that, and the third. Is it really straight black men? Like, it sounds cool to put that on us, but it's like, how are we the culprit of that shit? But the imagery says so. The imagery says so. The chick, Doechii, she just did something about, it was like, what's a red flag? They were like, what's a red flag in a relationship for you? She said a straight heterosexual man. Niggas is mad. Nigga, she didn't say you as a straight heterosexual man. It didn't bother me. I'm not trying to get at Doechii. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it's like, if that person feels like you're a red flag, then stay away from them. But this is the thing. You see how this imagery is now keeping up? What is the imagery? Make sure black women and black men don't get together. The imagery is so wired that it's just like, this is the lifestyle that I express. You feel what I'm saying? I'm not saying that this is how it has to be, but this is when we get into those realities where black women be like, I'm not feeling protected. You can't say some disrespectful shit to you can't say some shit to a motherfucker and he feels disrespected and then call for him to protect you while he's like, what? How does that even make sense and compute? You see what I'm saying? But again, this is imagery. This is imagery. And the deity speaks and makes sure the imagery comes to life through you. Now, we in a whole generation of women saying, I'm ready for my soft gear era. I'm tired of being this, but y'all were bred. Y'all imagery was supplanted by the women who said, I'm a strong, independent woman who don't need no man. So now you need one? The fuck? The fuck? People be thinking imagery is always just pictures. No, nigga, imagery is the word that you imagery is what image can be conjured when you hear certain words, when the words that you speak. So when you now speak to your deity, I don't need a man. I don't need a man. You wonder why you still single? The black church done fucked up a lot of black women, bro. You know how many black women say Jesus is all the man that I need? Huh. And Jesus is all the man that they got. Fuck. There's a direct correlation. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. But I'm just saying it's the reality. There's a direct correlation between Jesus being all the man that a black woman need and Jesus being all the man that she got. How did that start? How did that start? That was a programming. Because now when we look at the imagery, we look at the words constantly being spoken, it created the imagery that now went down into the unconscious mind. Your unconscious mind is where your intentions sit. When people say this wasn't my intention to do, because they get caught or whatever the case may be, it wasn't my intention to hurt you. It was in your unconscious mind. Somewhere down there, it was programmed for this to happen. And it did. You feel what I'm saying? It wasn't my intention to cheat. But the imagery and the words that you listen to all the time create an imagery that shows that you're a cheater. You feel me? Niggas be like, I ain't a fuckboy, but I listen to Future. He's like, I don't sell drugs, but I listen to trap music. And I get it. You don't sell drugs. You don't have to sell drugs. But there's a direct correlation from those who actually do sell drugs and to listening to trap music. It's affirmations. Affirmations generate images. And then it goes back into the two biggest ones and the biggest affirmations that you have. I am and I can. I am shows who you are. I can shows what your ability is. And the deity that you serve, the deity that you follow, the deity that you adhere to is going to fuse the imagery and bring the imagery to life when you utter those words. I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. You won't. I am this. I am this. And you are. You will be. You feel me? Because every time you utter I am, every time you utter I can, every time you speak, you are praying. When you speak authentically, and when you speak authentically to yourself in your most natural state, you are praying. And every image that you are now able to hold in your mind when you are doing that is the prayer. So when you say, oh, I want to be this, I want to be that, but then you go out and then you speak against yourself, it's going to nullify the quote unquote prayer that you had. I'm going to say this and I'm going to start trying to wrap it up. If you're praying and while you're praying, your mind is blank, there's no imagery there, you're not praying. When you're in your own little bubble, in your own space, and you're just talking to yourself, just talk to yourself. Watch how your images flow. That's how you know you're praying. Now be careful with what images flow. Because now when you're speaking about, yeah, fuck boy this, fuck girl that, this, that, and the third, blah, blah, blah. When you're constantly speaking on these things and look at the images, you're seeing images in your head when that happens. You feel me? And then seeing these images as it fucking happens, you're praying. And your deity is now saying, oh, this is what you want. I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you. You can have it. You sure this is what you want? Because this is what you're talking about the most. This is why you got to be careful. So I don't like this, that, and the third. You kind of do. I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like this. But what's in your mind? What you don't like. So the mind isn't going to keep you away from it. It's going to actually move you towards it. Because the mind doesn't give a fuck. It doesn't give a fuck about whether you want it or you don't. It's like, what are you thinking about the most? Because this is what you're on. So while this is here, I'm going to, there's no reason. It's no coincidence why every year they announce flu season. This flu season is going to be bad. Get ready for this. The moment you accept, yep. This is something that I really, really learned when it comes to like quote unquote real demons and demonic shit. One thing that I learned from studying this shit is that I don't give a fuck if it's a demon, an angel, a god, or a devil. It has to have your permission before it can enter. The moment you agree, you don't have to physically say yes, But the moment you agree to something by keeping it on your mind, by constantly repeating the shit that it's saying, you're agreeing to it and you're allowing it into your space. Now you're allowing that manifestation to come into your reality, which is going to shape the mentality that you have because the imagery is there. But even deeper than that, from the imagery that is there, it now creates your decisions. This is why you hear me say, blessings and curses are the results of decisions. Now, the imagery that you're able to hold that generates the decisions that you make, yeah, that's it. That's what life is. That's what life is. And that's when a deity is now blessing you or cursing you based off of the very things that you hold in your image. So when people be like, yo, I'm cursed, life ain't going the way that I needed to go. What's your imagery like? What's your imagery like? Is your imagination showing that the very thing that you're doing is supposed to produce negative results? Because you're going to produce negative results with it. The mind is that powerful, but it is the bridge between the soul and the body. And if you are not in control of the words that you speak, if you are not in control or understanding of the words that you speak, you'll never conjure up the images necessary for a deity to move the right way in your life. And don't forget to check out Cafe Clothing, formerly Just Scenes merch. Get all of your intricate designs crafted specifically for the melanated being to develop a positive imagery within self and to have a little bit of fun in the process. From the peace, love, knowledge, and freedom to the dead horses and water designs, all of the styles are crafted for the imagery to make you feel as you're supposed to feel. Because as I always say, the best way to fit in is to stand out. And what better way to stand out than with your exclusive styles from Cafe Clothing. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and end it there. That's prayer, homie. No, that's imagery, but it's prayer too. Imagery is, but that I think that what was it? Yeah, that's how you speak to a deity. Prayer. Anyway, that's that. You feel me? If you cannot picture what you're hearing when you're hearing it, you can't listen to it. You can hear it, but there's no way you can listen to it. Because there's no image that is now developed within the conversation context of what you're talking about. One of the dopest moments that I love having with people is when I'm talking to them and they have aha moments. The moment the image finally comes into their mind for the first time. You ever notice like the mind, the body, the human being is so fucking special because the moment you actually see it, your eyes widen. Like when you finally see something in your mind's eye, your eyes widen. You be like, see, you are able to see my facial expression right now without me having to show you my facial expression. You see what I'm saying? Like when you finally get something, when you seeing it for the first time after it's been explained, like your eyes widen, you like, oh shit. Damn. Yo, your eyes widen because now you see it. The vision has gotten clearer. Everything that happens in the mind will still, there's a synergy between the mind, body, and the soul. Everything works in a unison, in a synergistic unison. So when certain things are expressed in one way, you'll see them manifest in other ways. Like, so when your mind can finally envision something, when your mind now holds that image and that imagery is finally there, you feel what I'm saying? Now you can see it. So it doesn't matter what a person is saying. If you are unable to understand the words that they're speaking or even hear the words that they're speaking, you'll never be able to generate the images necessary. This is one of the reasons why when it comes to this podcast and the way that I talk, I try to be as vivid and descriptive as possible. I want you to see what I'm saying. You feel me? I really want you to see what I'm saying. I want you to see what I'm saying so much so that when you see it, it makes you want to go know more about it. Because then when you go decide to know more about it, now you're starting to gain experience. And it's not until you gain experience that you actually have understanding of what I'm talking about. I never tell anybody give up their religion. I say, understand your religion. Understand what these images are that have programmed you and stop seeing certain shit as in a certain way. For example, if we look at King David, we study the story of David and Goliath, how he hit him with a sling. That's a powerful story, right? Imagery wise, that's a powerful story to show that you can conquer anything that any challenge, any obstacle, you can go conquer it. But don't nobody talk about the imagery part of when he was fighting lions and bears with the same sling. That's where his practice came in, where he was able to knock Goliath out with a single slingshot. You feel what I'm saying? Nobody talks about that part. There's no imagery in your mind for when he was in the trenches practicing. They love to tell you about beat Goliath. We have a very vivid imagination, a very vivid imagery of what that story represents and how we can apply that to our life about conquering. But yet, we don't have the imagery about fighting the lions and the motherfucking bears in the woods. The struggles and the triumphs and the skill set that you have to happen, the things that you have to develop in between time to be able to complete the objective the first time it happens. We don't talk about that imagery part. You know why? Because nobody's telling that story the right way to create the imagery. You're going to go to church every single day. They're going to stir up your motherfucking emotions. And when they stir up their emotions, they're going to tell you what image you're supposed to see. You feel me? No two people on this earth should see the same thing the same way. And it's by design. Now, that's where perception comes in and perspective. My perception should never be your perception because we have different life experiences. Therefore, our imaginations are wired differently, which means our imagery in our mind are different. Now, my perspective now develops when I'm able to see your perception, which means how the words affect you and the images that you're able to create in your mind. I'm able to see that now, despite what my mind is seeing. Not many motherfuckers can do that shit. That's why they won't say anything about, like, I hear people say shit like, I've been where you've been when I was studying. Like, no. Our understanding of walking away from religion was different. I wasn't angry or mad. I understood it and I realized what it was doing to me. You were mad at a certain situation in life and you just felt like God wasn't there or whatever the case may be. I ain't got nothing to do with that. I always knew Source was around. I always had a real connection to Source. I understood the religion and realized, oh, this shit's keeping me bound. I don't have to fuck with it no more. So therefore, I'm not trying to convince myself to stay in a belief state of it. I understand it. I'm beyond belief. But some motherfuckers have only seen enough to believe. And they have not seen anything. You feel what I'm saying? Seeing is believing, but motherfuckers believe what they have not seen. And they will never see. But they speak as if they saw it. That's what's crazy to me. That's when you know you're walking into a different realm of insanity. When you're speaking as if you've seen something and you believe something that you know you didn't see. That's when it gets crazy. That's when it becomes cultic. That's when it becomes all of these things. You know you didn't see it. But you've convinced yourself that you've seen it and you speak to people about it as if you were there firsthand. That's crazy. That's literally crazy. You feel me? If I tell a story about a party that I didn't go to, and I'm telling the story, and somebody that was actually at the party says, nigga, that ain't what happened. Like, you look at me like, why you lie about a story? Like, that's lying. When I'm telling you about a story that I perceive to have really happened, and I'm telling it like I've been there, like, that's crazy. That's crazy as fuck. Like, we would look at somebody like something was wrong with you if they told a story about something that they had not experienced firsthand. But yet, that's what religion makes us do. Tell firsthand experiences that we didn't have firsthand. You know why? Because it makes us believe in the shit because we're wired to see something that we cannot see and validate. That's where knowledge, wisdom, and understanding comes in because you have to first see what you can't see. That's why faith is always so big on everything. Faith and fear is the same shit, but this is what I talk about in the Tree of Life. When you go, faith and fear are supposed to be initiating factors to get you into the next phases. A belief, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. This is why Sophia 3 is so important and why you got to read that. And it ties into what I'm talking about now. You dig what I'm saying? But again, if somebody can't see it, they can't believe it. People be thinking that I don't believe it because I don't like... A lot of shit that you don't believe is because you don't trust the motherfucker that's telling you, and by not trusting, trust is very powerful because the moment that I don't trust anything or I don't trust the person, I am no longer open to creating the images off the words that they're saying. I'm purposely going to block myself from seeing the words from seeing the images that they're actually presenting to me, whether I'm showing them or not. And this is what used to get me about, how the conscious community fell and all that. It's like, how did y'all, I'm sorry, but how did y'all just unsee what you saw? then it made me realize, what if they never saw it? What if the words and all of the shit that they heard and everything, they were just following everything, they never saw it? Me personally, like, I saw everything that I, you know what I'm saying? I was able to see it in my mind's eye. That's why I can't go back. But then again, it's like, if you didn't have the ability to understand the words that were spoken, you didn't see it. So it's easy to backtrack and say, you know what, I made a mistake, this, that, and the third, and go back to only what you see. Only what you were able to see. Then it goes back into average motherfucker can't read past the 6th grade level. I was talking to a woman who, I was reading a certain book, and she was like, I want to read that book too. And she was like, this book is too heavy. It's light. And it's not that it was too heavy or that it was even light. Our ability to understand what we're saying, I can conjure the images up from every word that is spoken in here. And if I draw a blank on the image, I know that I'm going to go get the definition, break down the etymology, and get the word so I can see the image that's associated with this word in context with everything that I'm reading. She wasn't able to do that. And it's not a shot to her. No, like, I'm on some disrespectful shit, but nah. If somebody can't see the images off the words, then y'all communication is not going to be the same. You only be able to communicate to the capacity of that person's imagery. Sit with that. This is why I always say, like, I'm not going to argue calculus with somebody who's stuck at arithmetic. Yeah, we're talking about math, but you can't see the math that I could see. So when I'm telling you about the math that I see, you'll say that that math doesn't exist because you've never seen it. Think about it. With arithmetic, if you were to tell a motherfucker, at some point you're going to be adding square roots and letters and alphabets into number systems, and you're going to have to you're going to take numbers to solve for letters. To tell that to a motherfucker who's stuck at arithmetic, they're not going to believe you. Because that's just adding and subtracting, multiplying and dividing, the basic levels and shit. Apply that to anything. If you cannot see what it is that I'm expressing to you, if you cannot see my images, we'll never understand each other. But that's where it comes to the words. But then even still, now when we're looking at deities and shit, that's the power of what a deity is. Deities only speak through imagery. The moment you learn that, the moment you really accept that and you can understand what I'm talking about, it makes sense. Your deity speaks through images. The image is based off of the words that you have. And like, this is why it's important to have a high vocabulary. Not to flex on niggas, but to actually connect with source. A high vocabulary with an intellectual context of multiple things. That's why your deity can speak to you with anything. This is why when I get my downloads, what I call downloads, it's just when source speaks, it speaks. But I'm so open to so much shit that I can give you a download on anything. And I can use any kind of example, however I need to use it, because I have the imagination now to be the communicating factor that I'm supposed to be. But that's because I understand how source speaks. Source does not speak. And that's another thing. This is why I call it source. I don't give it a name anymore. Because the moment you give it a name, that's the only way you're going to be able to envision it in your imagination. Therefore, you're not going to get anything. Like, there's things that Allah can give you that God can't. Message-wise. You feel me? There's things Buddha can give you that Allah can't. There's things that Krishna can give you that God and Jesus can't, because the names are different. And the moment you have the name of something, your image now creates the lexicon, creates the imagery of, I can only see based off of this. You feel what I'm saying? I ain't saying give up your religion. I ain't saying switch religions. I'm saying understand what religion is and why it's given to you. And now understand why and know how a religion now corrupts your mind into only seeing what it wants you to see based off the religion. But I'm going to go ahead and end it there. Go kiss your babies. Make sure they eat their vegetables. And our kids, look, y'all grown. Y'all grown. I'm not going to teach you. I can't tell you how to raise your kids. I can't tell you shit. But I do know this. A child's imagination begins to get manipulated and tainted when they don't have the words. Children ask why because they're needing to see the image. Children ask why because they need to see the image. The more times they ask why, the more the image is reaffirmed in their mind. Once they actually have the image, and the same image that you see is what they see, they'll stop asking why. Because I said so does not give them that image. Because I said so does not allow them to have the fruitful words necessary to create the image when spoken. Because now when you say because I said so, when they go out and they experience this exact thing they're asking why about, they don't have the image, but now something or somebody is going to give them the image. You feel me? Something or somebody is now going to give them that image that they were trying to feel, that you wouldn't feel with them. The moment that a child asks a question, they're ready for the answer. It's on you to give it to them. And the answer that they get is what's going to wire their imagination. And it's now going to create the imagery. You feel me? Teach them for real. Stop being afraid. Like, actually let them learn why, so it can create their imagination. And then now when they need to have their relationship with source, they understand that it's based off of the imagination, not the words that they speak, not the, oh, I'm going to pray and I'm going to ask for this, that, and the third. You can't ask for forgiveness. You have to conjure the image of what a forgiving person looks like and what it means to actually change. Because when, as they say, when you have repented or whatever, you go back and you don't go back to it again, which means that when you're repenting and you're saying you're asking for forgiveness or whatever the case may be, you now have to conjure an image of yourself that will never do what you just did again. That's what repentance really is. And not going back to the situation ever again. You see what I'm saying? But again, if your unconscious mind is still programmed and that image of yourself is still that, you're not going to change. You're not going to do the necessary things to make sure you don't do it again. And our kids will develop into exactly what we wired them to be based off the imagination we allow them to have. We be thinking we know best. It's like we say we got them to 18 or we raise them however you give your kid you give your child the very imagination that you have. And when you see that imagination playing itself out, because these are the images that they now hold within their mind and their reality plays that way, you can't look and say, that's not my fault. That is your fault. That is your fault. Because their imagination was developed by the words that you spoke to them. And the words that you spoke to them was based off of the words that you were able to understand and the images that you were able to hold. You see what I'm saying? And that's how deities speak to us. So teach them how to speak to a deity right. But I'm going to go into there. Go kiss your babies. Make sure they eat their vegetables. And I'm going to see y'all all on the next one. Peace, love, knowledge, and freedom. I'm out.